Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today we finish off the mini Monty Python series with Season 4, the final series of Monty Python. And you can make the argument that it's their least successful season, and they perhaps shouldn't have done it in the first place after John Cleese left. Again, this network releasing edition is absolutely spectacular. The prints are amazing, and you get viewer notes. As you can tell, with Season 4 it's just one disc, not two, because there's only 6 episodes, even though 13 episodes were commissioned. But the guys just decided after 6 not to do the other 7. It's the season that is the least famous. It's the season that I've probably seen the least. And for me, it's the season that is the least memorable. They kind of go for more thematic episodes, not really sketches, more... It's almost a little bit like Ripping Yarns, the Michael Palin, Terry Jones series, more than Monty Python. Like I said, this was 1974. John Cleese had left at this point because he felt they were out of ideas or repeating themselves. He would later go on the year after to do Fawlty Towers, which was hugely successful, as we know. Carol Cleveland is quoted as saying that they should have probably never done the 4th season. There's still some things to like in the 4th season, no doubt, but you do get the feeling they were trying something new, which isn't a bad thing. But the fact that they pretty much left it halfway through the season, essentially, you can tell that some of the enthusiasm had gone. You know, Terry Jones felt that as much as they enjoyed doing it, probably because Cleese wasn't there, because Cleese was such a perfectionist, he felt that they were almost becoming the establishment. And we see that with independent directors that kind of get sucked into the Hollywood system and end up never doing interesting work again. If your reputation is built on being anti-establishment, you get to a point in success and fame and money where you end up being the establishment. That's always when you have to kind of step back. And in 1975 they pretty much agreed just to not do Monty Python anymore as far as TV shows. Obviously they did films, and that spawned into musicals and CDs and LPs that we're still talking about and enjoying 50 years later. So the episodes, again, they're more thematic. So you have episode 1 is the golden age of ballooning, which kind of runs through the whole episode. The second episode has the theme of ants. The third episode is more sketch based, and for me we have the best sketch of the series, which is the squadron leader banter or jargon, where an RAF pilot comes in and nobody can understand his banter. Because really, if you look at the season, not much, obviously the sketches weren't really sketches, they were longer thematic items, but not a lot of this stuff ever got into the live shows, just by their structure. The only thing that really did was that RAF banter sketch. There's a really nice thing about trivializing war trial, with a lovely musical number, 2 different versions of Anything Goes, How to Tell You're an Idiot. Episode 4 has Hamlet and his desire to be a private detective. Again, there's a nice thing of 3 in a bed with the father-in-law. There's a nice thing with jockeys and Queen Victoria handicap race instead of horses. It's different Queen Victorias. Jimmy Hill, everybody's least favourite football pundit in the UK, dressed as Queen Victoria, which is almost something you don't see every day. Episode 5 is Mr. Neutron. Pretty much the whole episode is Mr. Neutron, who is a man who can destroy universes but gets kind of limited in suburbia, talking to the housewife Pepper Potts. Then episode 6 opens with The Worst Family in Britain, which is a riff on The Family, which was a 70s kind of, not talent show, but something similar. There's a plea for the rich, another slight riff on their word sketches with finishing sentences, which was a common thing. But really there's not that much that stands out without watching like the whole episode for the thematic kind of run through. There's good things in the Ant episode, but altogether, personally, I mean, obviously there'll be people who say that season 4 is their favourite season of Monty Python, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, you could tell they were moving on to something else. They kind of lost the enthusiasm for it. I mean, the performances are still good, but quite frankly, the material's just not there. There's really... the extras in this box set are interesting because there's outtakes and extra deleted scenes and a bit of extra footage on some of the sketches. But season 4 has a really nice little extra of Terry Gilliam being shown the restoration process, which is really interesting because he's seeing a lot of things for the first time as well being restored, which is really interesting. And also there's a 1974 interview which was carried out literally right after the season had ended, with Gilliam, Jones and Chapman, and Terry Jones does a couple of barbed little comments suggesting, you know, life without Cleese was actually a lot happier. But again, this series you do miss John Cleese, those authoritarian figures, and John Cleese does look like a genius for kind of leaving when he did, and obviously, like I said, the following year he would score a huge success with Fawlty Towers, which obviously propelled him to other things, because he was kind of the one Python that never really liked talking about Python. He always kind of, not necessarily put it down, but he always kind of made the point that, you know, a lot of it wasn't successful or a lot of it didn't really work. And like I said, he was the perfectionist. Not to say the other members weren't, but I think he was the voice of, we need to try and do better. And then of course they made 2 great films, and Holy Grail and Life of Brian, and another very good one, an underrated one in Meaning of Life. And then they all went on to have successful and long careers, apart from obviously sadly Graham Chapman, who may have been the most talented one out of the bunch. And obviously sadly Terry Jones left us last year. But overall, kind of what we're left with is one of the most influential, I mean, their influence is still seen today. You can't watch a sketch show without thinking about Monty Python, and yes, they were influenced by the Goons, they were influenced by Spike Milligan's Q programme, but those two artists and group of artists never really transcended the mainstream and were such an influence as Monty Python were. 100 years from now, people will still be watching Monty Python films and TV, and listening to their albums. But again, I would recommend, if you're a fan, even if you're not a fan, picking up these network releasing Blu-ray editions. Perhaps I wouldn't desperately tell you to pick up season 4, obviously to be a completist, but personally I wouldn't really watch it that often. But it's certainly worth it for that Terry Gilliam extra, and there's still plenty of enjoyment to be had, even though at times this season is a bit frustrating and a bit disappointing. But like I said in the earlier videos, in this one, the picture quality is amazing on these. They've done such a great job. Again, I had them recorded off the television, I had them in VHS, I've had them in DVD, but these Blu-ray editions are absolutely beautiful. And again, in that wee extra with Terry Gilliam, you can kind of see the work that went into restoring these. But knowing Monty Python, they'll probably release a 4K edition at some point to get more money out of us sometime in the future, or maybe they'll wait for 16K. So thanks very much for watching this season 4 finale episode of this very short Monty Python series of videos, and hopefully you'll join me again. Please leave your comments below. What is your favourite Monty Python season? What's your favourite Monty Python episode of season 4? Do you think they should have stopped at season 3, or do you think they should have somehow written the other 7 episodes they were supposed to in season 4? This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.